Alrighty, I am live, or at least hopefully YouTube shows that I'm live. I'm going to share the link out to everyone here. One moment. I want to make sure this is actually working. So I'm working. Wait, let's see. Feedback? There we go. Good. This works. Alrighty. I'm going to mute that, send the link to the people that want to watch. And here we go. So right now I'm going to be working on the live stream of High Tide at Hana. I'm just about to finish up the book here, and it's super exciting. This is the last chapter in the book where Brooke and Ethan finally get together. Well, they got together, but that's a minor detail because we went through the darkest night where they broke up and decided maybe this isn't going to work, but both made the decision to pursue the relationship, and we're going to have the moment of meeting at the end of the book. Also, there is an epilogue, which I will also live stream for you. I mean, why not, right? Let me pull up the cover of the book here, see if I can pull it up for you, because I'm not doing anything high tech. So, one moment. All right. Okay. High Tide at Hana. All right. High Tide at Hana, right there. The cover's going to change slightly, but that's the cover that I'm using right now. And yeah, things are going to change a little bit. I've actually had to change the titles, or not the titles, but the number of books, because this book is ending up being about 70,000 words. So, okay, 70,000 words, and I'm about 2,500 or 3,000 words away from the ending. Yes! I've got my short book, Moonlight at Wailea. That's my reader magnet, so you're welcome to check that out. But let me get set up, and we're going to finish High Tide at Hana here. This is really exciting. And what I do is I record this in the Voice app, the Voice Memos app here. You can see, I'm just showing you the process, the BTS behind the scenes, just doing the recording. And I'm unplugging my pod here because I need to hook up my microphone. I've got a lavalier so you can hear me. This is a bit of a production, but hopefully you'll get to see what it's like to be behind the scenes. That's what makes it really fun. Oh, hi, Nancy. Thank you very much for watching. It's nice when people come on and check out what the experience is like. All right, say thank you very much for watching. And I'm trying to do as much touch typing so I can keep you engaged as possible, but I need to get this hooked up. We need to start recording, so I'm going to read off my notes where the relationship changes. Brooke arrives at the market and her heart is pounding. So I've got my notes here that I'm going to use right there for typing. Because I am an outliner, I am not what is called a pantser. I outline the details of my chapters pretty well because I do not want to write 40,000 words. I know quite a few big authors who have done that, and I'm learning from their lessons. So let's get started. Somewhere, voice recording. All right, here we go. Recording, good. Okay, and this is chapter 31, Choose Love. I'm going to add a flickering candle to the scene. Can you see it? Oh, I know. There we go. It's romance. You're supposed to have a candle, right? Yes, that's good. I love this. All right. Brooke drove through the parking lot looking for a space, and there were none to be had. She kept driving around, and she thought, oh my gosh, every time I drive past this farmer's market, there's like nobody here, but all of a sudden it's jam-packed the only freaking time. As she drove around and continued to look for a parking space, a couple walked up to their car and hopped in, and Brooke drove up behind them and turned on her turn signal. Another car pulled into the parking lot, and she willed them to go away. She turned on her turn signal and jammed it even more emphatically, letting those people know that this was her space. She didn't want to miss it. As the couple pulled out, She immediately slid in behind them and shut off her SUV. But then she hopped out and stood in the back, scoping out the parking lot, and she could not see Ethan's vehicle. What in the world? She swore under her breath. This is exactly where he should be. This is where he told me that this is where things, when he needs to think about things and figure stuff out, this is where it is. Brooke covered her eyes to maybe cover the glare from the sun, to look around and realize this is just impossible. What is going on? So she started to look in the shadows of the farmer's market and where she thought Ethan might be. And she said, screw it, I'm going in. So she hopped out of her SUV and then grabbed her phone, stuffed it in her back pocket, and began wandering through the farmer's market toward Ululani's shaved ice. As soon as she walked up, her heart sank. Ethan was nowhere in sight. She looked around and he wasn't there, but the place was packed, so she gave it a chance. And she thought about pulling out her phone, but then she thought, no, let's do this like I want to do it. I want the direct approach. So she continued looking around and she couldn't see anything, but just then she caught a sparkle of somebody sitting on a table far away, and it was too many people were blocking it, but she saw a man's arm with, that was it. There's a two-tone watch. That's got to be Ethan's. That's what he always wears. She started pushing through the crowd. 50 feet away, Ethan was slowly chewing on his shaved ice, pondering what he would do. He debated uh, whether he was really worthy of Brooke's love, but then he came to the final conclusion that if you don't try something, it's never going to work. He said out loud, you miss 100% of the pitches that you don't take a swing at. He laughed at himself and said, bro, you're full of cliches, but there is a reason they're cliche. So he started looking up from his snow cone and looked and saw somebody pushing through the crowd. And he thought at first, wow, that's somebody's pretty aggressive trying to get over here. And she wasn't creating a commotion and he knew that it was a woman, but then he saw the blonde hair and his heart began racing. As Brooke began pushing through the crowd, her heart began racing too. And she's caught the glimpse of Ethan staring directly at her through the throngs of people. Immediately, she's excused herself and being said, excuse me, a bunch of times as she moved through the crowd, not to push anybody, until she finally walked up just as Ethan stood up and met her gaze. They both stood there for a moment, unsure what to do. And then Brooke raced up to him and then grabbed him and hugged him hard. He wrapped around his left arm around her body and held her, but he carefully held out his snow cone because he didn't want to mash his taro root and blood orange all over her white blouse. He stood there and said, hey, hang on. It's great to see you, but I don't want to get snow cone juice all over your blouse. She backed up immediately and laughed. And she looked him in the eyes and said, Ethan, I really have feelings for you. This has been an incredible experience, and I just want to feel confident that I think this will work. Ethan didn't hesitate a moment, and he said, Brooke, I have been smashed and destroyed before. You know that. I don't want to do some sort of trauma dump, but I just don't want to get hurt anymore, but I know you're worth it. You are an incredible woman. We haven't known each other long, but my entire thought is, what do I have to lose? And she looked at him, what? And he said, whoa, hang on, that sounded better in my head. Let me say that again. I have everything to lose. You're an incredible woman. I've enjoyed the time with you. The road trip was a wonderful experience. That was the funnest time I've ever had doing that drive, honestly, in my life, and I've done it a lot. She smiled and looked at him, and Ethan said, "Hey, before my snow cone drizzles all over the place, let's get you one and let's just have a chat." She said, "Hey, no problem. In fact, let me go grab one. You keep this seat because if we lose it, we're going to get crowded out and then we're going to be standing in a dirt parking lot." Ethan thought about it and said, "Yeah, you're right." So he sat down and defended the territory while Brooke went over to Ululani's and had a snow cone made. He came back, she came back, and he looked at her snow cone and it exactly matched hers. And she sat down smiling, saying, "I might as well try the same thing, the couple's snow cone, and let's see what happens." Look, and she continued, "Look, I've made decisions out of my life and guilt and obligation for a long time, and I honestly just haven't made the choice for me. I mean, it seems insane. I'm a director at companies. I'm gunning for a VP position." As she said that, Ethan's eyes dropped and he looked at his snow cone for a moment. But she continued, "Wait, wait, hang on." He raised his eyes back up and hopefully urged her to continue on. Hmm. She smiled and reached out and touched his left arm with hers, and then slid her hand down into his, intertwined their fingers, and then grasped it. He returned the grip and held her for a moment as they sat there, Ethan waiting for her reply. And she said, "Look, I've got this potential job interview. They're hot as heck, but I looked into it and I talked to my recruiter girlfriend, and they said they're very flexible. They just want performance. I don't have to be anywhere in particular." And I looked into it, and actually on their website with their prospectus, they show expanding into the Pacific Northwest and Hawaii. They already have an office. And you said you live in the Pacific Northwest. And he said, "Yes, I've got a place there and I've got a place here. But you said your office would be in Chicago." And she said, "Yes, my official office. But this is one of these jobs where I'm supposed to be out on the road maneuvering around." Ethan pursed his lips and took a bite of his snow cone, crunching on it, thinking for a moment. And he said, "Well, honestly, this is the hard part. I travel around a lot too. I mean, we're both not spring chickens. Of course, I would never say your age." She laughed and then socked his arm and said, "You're never supposed to ask a woman her age." And he said, "I know, I know." He put his hands up in mock defense. And Ethan said, "I've made a lot of decisions out of guilt and then protecting myself after I was so destroyed of what happened to me. And I just don't want another heartbreak, but I do want to give this a chance," he said tentatively. They both sat there for a long time, glancing up at the crowd that were swirling around them. If a line had formed at Ululani's, because as they were chomping on their snow cones, slowly dripping in their hands, Ethan offering her several napkins to clean up the mess, people oogled what they were doing and sat there. And as they sat there and walked up to Ululani's, before long, they had a line of 10 people, and the place was absolutely overwhelmed. Ethan smiled as he turned around for a moment and waved at the busy clerks, and they smiled and waved back, thankful for the business. And he said, "Oh, look, we're advertising for free." And Brooke laughed and said, "Yeah, that seems to be a skill. Hey, by the way, I did go to your construction site and check it out, and I talked with Simon." Ethan's eyes went up. "So he gave up what was going on?" And she said, "Yes, of course. Simon said that they actually solved some of your supplier problems so the water should smooth out." "Exactly," Ethan replied with excitement. "That means that frees me up to pursue other things." He paused with that last word and then looked close into her eye and winked at her. Brooke, I really have feelings for you. I wouldn't say that if it weren't true. There's no reason to beat around the bush. I choose you. Would you choose me? Brooke's heart leapt in her chest, and her eyes widened as her cherry lip gloss teeth, or her cherry lips, let's see here, her cherry gloss covered lips spread apart, revealing her smiling teeth, sparkling in the sun, covered in blood orange juice and taro root. And she said, yes, absolutely. Let's make this work. I need to call Julian to take care of the condo, and I want to make sure to keep it. That way we give each other some space. We don't want to go too overboard. And Ethan said, yes, you're absolutely right. We don't want to go too overboard, but I sure enjoy you. He winked at her, and she smiled and blushed and turned her eyes down, taking a crunch out of the snow cone. And she said, is it extra hot outside all of a sudden? This snow cone feels like it's something I need. And Brooke said, or Ethan replied, well, I'm sure we could come up with some interesting ideas to do with these crunchy snow cones if we could ever get them back to my condo. Brooke smiled a sly smile as she slid her hand up and down Ethan's strong forearm. And she stroked it back and forth for a minute as they continued to crunch on the snow cones. Far above them, a couple of seagulls swirled around, cackling, looking for snacks to attack. And just then, Brooke looked up and saw the two seagulls peel away as they headed for a beach. And headed for the beach right near them. As she looked up at them, she said, Ethan, check it out. They're going after the lunch. And Ethan's eyes tracked away from Brooke's eyes just for a moment as he saw the two birds streaking towards an undefended lunch on the beach. He said, he told her, should we tell them? And she said, no, they have to have the Hawaii experience as well. Sure enough, the two seagulls landed on the people's bags and started attempting to pluck apart their lunch. Soon they both heard yelling as a man came streaking across the beach, flapping his arms. The seagulls sat there looking at the man belligerently, debating whether to fly away. Only until the man came very close did they finally break away and then look for somebody else. Ethan looked back at Brooke, and he smiled and raised his snow cone, or what was left of his shaved ice, and Brooke did the same and tapped it, and Ethan said, well, this isn't exactly the wine glass and rose petals speech of, would you like to be my girlfriend? And Brooke said, that's okay. This is more fun anyway, and it's far more memorable, don't you think? And Ethan replied, absolutely. I think this might work out just fine. Brooke smiled, stood up, and leaned over, and Ethan leaned in, and they kissed, a nice, juicy, blood orange kiss, and held it for a moment. Just then, a little girl in the crowd said, ew. And they both broke away and looked at her, and they heard, Mommy, they're kissing. And they heard the mother call out, honey, that's what's called love. One day, you might find somebody that you'll share that with. The mother took the young girl's arm and then walked back into the crowd. Both Ethan and Brooke blushed and smiled at each other and said, well, maybe she broke the L word. And Brooke replied, yeah, it might be a bit premature, but I can see wonderful things coming along soon. Yes. Oh, that was awesome. Okay. All right, so that was 16 minutes. Alrighty. What do you think? I loved it. That worked very well. Okay, let's download that audio. I'm going to download the audio on my iPad to iCloud. Oh wait, folder. What am I doing? Select folder. Save to files. Oh, geez. Okay. That was the end of the book. Oh my gosh. But there's an epilogue. So, but wait, there's more. I tied it Hana. Save as chapter 31. Boom. Okay, that is now saved. And I will put that into my transcription software. And while it transcribes, I'm going to load that into my transcription software. After 27 clicks, let's see, chapter 31. Ooh, yes. Ooh, it's still uploading in the cloud. Gotta wait. Hang on. Clouding, uploading, good. Chapter 31, today, 16 minutes. Boom, start. All right, transcription started. Clouding, maybe. Uh-oh. Are we having technological meltdowns? Those are my favorite. Oh, it's because it's not uploaded yet. Okay, chapter 31's finally uploaded. Start. Okay, it's cooking. Maybe. I had a short video recently that talked about technological meltdowns. And say chapter 31. Okay, here we go. Rename. Say high tide chap 31. Okay, good. Okay, it's uploading to the cloud. Now, these are my favorite moments. Like you're so close, and it's very similar to batteries not included for Christmas. All of a sudden, denied. It's pretty funny. Okay, high tide chapter 31 start. Okay, transcription started. Good. We'll eventually get there. Okay, good. Well, that's processing in the ether. And I'm going to use my phone for the final transcription. That's really exciting. So now I need to get prepared to do the epilogue scene. It's going to be a short scene, but nevertheless, it is the critical scene because it takes place a year later. And multiple speakers. Okay, good. It takes place a year later. So let me get prepared for that while the transcription happens. Ho, 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 yes. Okay, one moment. Get the voice. There's a lot of tech to this, which I wished wasn't the case. But, okay, here we go. I want to get a word count, so just hang on just a minute. Okay, copy. All right, open Scrivener because that is what I write my books in. And chapter 31, the end. Okay. The end. Okay, and that was 2,335 words. Yes, exactly where I wanted it to land. Yes, Nancy, the comment by the girl. Ew, mommy. All right, now we need the epilogue. Boom. Okay. Let me prepare for the epilogue. One moment. I need to go into Scrivener, go into my... I wish I could... Oh, wait, I can kind of show you this. Here. Show you what I'm doing. At least try to. There you go. It's never exciting to look at, but here's the outline. Act for Love, epilogue, 1 year later. Okay. Hero shot, symbolism. These are all the things I think about. Oopsie, just deleted it. Okay. Go into my notes. All right. Off-page goals, 1 year later. Okay, there we go. Oh, that actually worked pretty well. Okay. Getting everything in position. That's not bad. That's actually nice. Rather than using my laptop, I'm using my phone as a webcam. So 1 year later, Ethan spamming. Let's see. Perfect. Okay, the epilogue. Now let me get into my voice recording app and let's see. Okay, let me get this set up. High Tide Chapter 31. Now, I think this is a lot of fooling around and setting up. However, in 16 minutes, I dictated 2,300 words, and with editing and all that messing around, that's 2,500 words. I can dictate easily 4 times faster than I can type. Plus, my dictation's actually smoother than my typing because of typos and all that stuff. So, yeah, I've utterly embraced dictating because when I'm typing, I can see the little red squiggles and it makes my head go nuclear emoji, and I can't stand that. It's much easier for me to dictate and type. That way I can be calm and zen, and then I can do the editing grind later. I find that's much easier. So let me get a drink of water and let's get this chapter done. And then and I need to post on the Facebook group, the 20 Books Author, the end. And people always have a wine glass. I just have a mug. I've got like 12 romance books to write this year and 11 thrillers. If I drank that much wine, I'd be like, she loved him. Yeah, no. Hopefully you're having fun, because I am. All right. Okay, High Tide epilogue 1 year later. Okay. Let me turn the camera just a bit. There we go. The sizzling crackle of heating Spam on a fry pan permeated the kitchen. The crackling sound echoed and popped, and there was silence but for Ethan shuffling around, staring at the pan, holding his spatula, ready and wait to make sure that the Spam didn't burn. Beside it in another pan was eggs cooking, and his Kona coffee was sitting on the counter steeping and steaming. He set down the spatula on a trivet and waited a moment as the eggs continued to sizzle. He lifted the lid up to make sure they were cooking properly and then set it back down. He reached over to his kawaii mug, picked it up, a textured one that he've always enjoyed, and took another sip of his coffee. Save for the clattering in the kitchen, the sound of his condo was empty. There was nothing going on. It was peaceful, and he was there standing, contemplating what his day was going to be like. Behind him, a laptop sat on the table facing away, and he thought about it for a moment. He thought about going over and checking it, and then he realized, no, don't worry about it. The corporate presentation will be fine. Life has continued on and things are okay. Ethan spatulaed out the Spam off of the pot, or off the skillet, and dropped it on the plate, and he skillfully slipped the spatula under the eggs, hoisted them up as the butter dripped off the edges, and then artfully draped them all over the Spam. He grabbed a little bit of his favorite Cholula hot sauce and put a couple sprinkles on it, and then took his mug and his plate and walked over to the granite island and took a seat to eat. As he sat there alone in the kitchen, thinking of what he was going to do in the day, the call of the laptop kept dragging his mind back to it, thinking about all the things that needed to be done, what was going to happen. And he was mentally preparing for another day to work on the Lahaina redevelopment project. Once he was done with his breakfast, he cleaned things up and dropped the dishes into the dishwasher, and then stood up and looked around. He was content. The space clean, sharp, and well taken care of as always. As he walked to the hallway, getting ready to leave, he picked up his wallet and keys and then clattered things. And then he paused and thought, this place has a nice touch to it. And then he called back, hey, honey, I'm just about getting ready to go. Good luck with your breakfast meeting. Outside on the deck, Brooke sat there. She had already eaten breakfast before because she wanted to clear her mind and be ready for her Zoom call meeting. And Ethan thought, you know what? I better do what I always enjoy doing. He walked back onto the lanai, and there Brooke sat staring out at the space, comfort and contented. And she said, "Oh, you're going to be late if you keep messing around with me." And Ethan replied, well, messing around is exactly what I had in mind, honestly. She looked at him and tapped his forearm. You're so naughty. And Ethan said, well, we'll work on that later this evening after I get back. Good luck with your meeting, honey. He leaned down and gave her a nice, slow kiss on the lips, and she smiled as he pulled away. He reached his left hand and brushed her hair as he held the coffee mug. Then he raised his mug, and she raised up hers, and they clinked mugs. Her left hand sparkled and shined a little bit of light onto his face, the diamond engagement ring sparkling in the morning sun. She took a glance at it and smiled, and he looked at her, seeing where her eyes were going, and he smiled as well. He reached down and squeezed her left shoulder and said, you'll do great, honey. I can't wait to see how your presentation goes. She stood up, not wanting to let him escape by himself, and they gave each other a nice warm embrace, and then they kissed again. They almost stumbled over as they held each other, leaning against the railing, and she looked down. One day I'm going to get you to clean up that rust on the railing. In fact, I'm going to get one of your contractors to take care of that. Ethan laughed. Yeah, but then the place wouldn't have any character. Okay, honey. He leaned over again and kissed her, and then left her to ponder her day. She looked over the space and over the ocean as she heard Ethan gathering his items for work in his work bag, and then the door clicking and locking. She sat looking over the space, drinking her coffee and wondering how in the world she ended up here. There was a whirlwind of plans and changes to be made, and she was perfectly happy. She was able to convince the president of the company, with her new title as vice president, that the expansion in Hawaii was worth it, showing the initial data. And this morning, she was going to provide the board of directors with a big plan for the Hawaii expansion. She held her left hand out, lifted her fingers up, and looked at the sparkling ring. It wasn't massive, it wasn't ostentatious, but it was hers. It was a beautiful, clear diamond set in white gold platinum. And she looked at it as two seagulls flew by, swirling in the wind, chasing each other, and then flew back off into the distance, waiting for the next snack on the beach. She raised her mug to the seagulls and said, best of luck to the both of you. I think this has worked out well. Yes! Okay, let me get that downloaded. Ooh, yes. Move, save to files. Okay, this is High Tide Epilogue. Epilogue. Yes. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Let me save the recording. High Tide Epilogue. Oh my gosh. Okay. Now let me get the epilogue loaded here. This is the best part ever. Epilogue. Now this is going to take some transcription and editing and all sorts of fun messing around, but we'll get there. Let's see, I timed. Okay, 1 year later, camera on. Okay, here we go. Copying. All right, pasting another 1,026 words, and the most important part, the end, bolded. Oh, yes. Oh, you have no idea how exciting this is. There's still a lot of work, but check it out. The end. And of course, on the iPad, it doesn't show how many total words, but I know it'll be about 73 or 74,000 words. Yes, I literally finished the first draft of my first full-length romance in the Maui Desire trilogy. Only 2 more books to go, but the Moonlight at Wailea book is being edited right now, and that will be available on my website very soon for you to download. You just need to sign up for my mailing list so you can keep updates. I'm finishing this. I'm going to rush it out, and then I'm working on The Magellan Deception. That book has been a long time in coming. That thriller available on aaronrlinsdau.com very soon, please. That's a flagship. That's a beast. 120,000 words of pure adrenaline adventure. But for the people who like a little spice in their adventure, aaronbelsing.com, that's where you're going to find all these books and more coming soon. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Nancy, for watching my live stream here. I will be live streaming again soon. On my next editing project, I will be working at Golden Dusk at McKenna, and then another thriller coming up soon. Oh gosh, this is so exciting. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and give me some ideas. Maybe I might be able to use you as a character in my next novel. Thank you very much for watching.